this is where I think we've agreed that we're going to have kind of a lose to win extra time part of the pod where we move on to some football discussion. That's all right with you guys?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think there's some key topics to pick up on. So I don't know who wants to open up the floodgates, but let's go.
Well, I mean, where do you want to start? I mean, we always talk VAR, don't we? I mean, let's be honest, that's a topic every single week, and I guess this week's no different. Another, I guess you can say controversial. I mean, it was controversial, obviously, because of the nature, but we'll talk, say, Arsenal Newcastle then, as that's it just so happens to be that game. I don't know where you stand on it, but I think it's one of these things. I think these things are getting a little out of hand now in terms of not.
Yeah.
And I won't say a little out of hand in terms of it is a little out of hand in the way the referees are necessarily deciding it, and I think we've all kind of had our thoughts on the actual referees a bit. I won't say ability, but you know what I mean, the quality of the refereeing overall, and how VAR is used, etc., etc. But I do find it's getting to a stage now that regardless of the VAR and its controversy, the outcry that you have from it nowadays, to the point where you're getting your clubs involved, it's a bit silly, isn't it? I don't know. I think it's silly.
Gone bonkers. It's gone completely bonkers. And I just said, you know what I've noticed more and more now is the refs are just basically defaulting to VAR. They're scared to make a decision. If they make a decision, they go. As you can see it on their faces, as soon as the players surround them, go, it's going to be checked. It'll be checked. Don't worry, it's going to be checked. That's their default position. And this is why everything is being checked. Everything. And this is why it goes back in the Tottenham Chelsea game as well. They're going to check this bit now, and then we're going to go and check that, and then we'll check that. And it's like you've got 3 checks going on at the same time, and it's just madness. I mean, what on earth are they going on? The refs. I mean, the refs have got. For me, they've got to take more responsibility. That VAR should be used.
Is that the lack of authority that they have now?
I think they're terrified.
Exactly. Because players, managers, fans, media just pile on.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying their quality is really high in refereeing. I'm just saying that their authority has now been diminished so much.
Yeah, and it's massively micro scrutinized. Every single play.
No one respects a decision at all. Almost any decision.
No.
So and that's probably why I would suspect as a referee they're probably going inwards into the shell a bit and going, well, we can rely a bit on the technology to help us out. I don't know. Anyway, Jack, you've probably got an opinion because obviously, and as an Arsenal fan, you were.
So
in that one
my first things first on the refereeing standards. I agree that what VAR has done is created a fear factor with these referees. I think you're bang on. Every time there is a decision or something happening, you can see the exact conversation going on. It's being checked, as you've said.
Yeah.
It undermines their ability, it undermines their authority with it. And I think it's not done them any favours. What the frustrating part for me is you see it done, and this is I think this is what Arteta was trying to get across, is that you see it done in other leagues and it's less controversial, it's less time is taken, less issue is taken with it, that it's not in the press and in the news as much as it is here. Now I think there's a few reasons behind that. I think because of the pressure here and the issues that have happened here, there is a problem there. That's number one. But 2, I think the standard that comes because of that pressure has that impact on it. I'm trying to elaborate, trying to get my words across properly with it, and I think I might confuse myself slightly there. But what I mean is that they are freer to make a decision. They are in a position that they can trust their better judgment. And the idea behind VAR is that it's meant to be, and it's something that's trotted out all the time by anybody I listen to, is that it should only intervene when it's a clear and obvious mistake.
Yeah.
And when you're having to draw lines for toenails, I don't see that as a clear or obvious mistake that a linesman has made. I see that as a very close decision. Now, I don't think that's the way forward. Going back to the Newcastle situation, so if we kind of go through it periodically, Havertz did exactly what Xhaka did at Liverpool last season is he riled up probably one of the feistiest sets of crowds that there is unnecessarily from a not even thinking about the foul at this point, just as a team. He made a mistake doing that. I believe the foul is borderline. It's left to opinion on it. It's not a factual that it's red. It's not a factual.
I don't have a
not
concern with that. Yeah, it's just again, it was given as a yellow. That almost goes back to what you were just saying in terms of like clear and obvious. To me, it wasn't clearly a red card. It was borderline, but it wasn't clearly an obvious red card. And there, it's like, well, we'll just leave it then, you know. And that's
I think it was reckless. I think it was out of control, and it was silly. And I think what the player himself was trying to put, probably an awful lot of frustration, but trying to put his stamp on a game, probably wanted to kind of go, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do, and throw myself around while things aren't really landing for me might be the way for me to win over some critics. Onto the next controversial decision was Bruno's forearm, elbow, whatever you want to call it, to Jorginho.
That was naughty.
And for me, there's no opinion behind that one. That's factually a intentional blow to the head by a player that is a red card. And I don't know many people that disagree with that. I haven't heard anybody say that shouldn't have been a red. I've heard everybody say he's very, very lucky to be on the pitch. People sitting on the fence, where actually they mean it should have been a red and he didn't get it. And I think that almost set a tone. When that had happened, there's an element of fear within the referees at that stage. I think there's something based on what had happened with Spurs and Liverpool. I think they're all so scared of making a mistake, or also understanding that they're under a complete microscope, and that anything that they do can result them in being, is it Anthony Taylor that got dropped to the Championship and then fucked up another decision in the Championship as well?
I'm not sure that's the best thing either. I
don't agree with that either.
I wouldn't say it's. My thought would be, surely positive reinforcement's better than negative reinforcement on these things.
Definitely.
Like, well, I know that they haven't been brilliant, but my point would, and there's always, it doesn't matter what you're doing. This goes back to what you were saying about like clear and obvious for like offsides and like toenails and stuff like this. If you just change the goalpost of that and say, okay, for those things, we're just going to give it, we're barely going to look at it, kind of thing, you'll still get people who analyze it to the nth degree in their basements or whatever they're going to do, and then go, oh, it was clearly offside, and they'll still be rage about it one way or the other. It would just be over a microscopic level, or you know what I'm trying to say. So I don't think you can avoid that, but I think that's
there's something's going to have to happen in it. They're going to have to review the way they use it, because it's gone bonkers.
I almost think that it should be stripped back to the point where
I agree.
The referee does 99% of it.
Yeah.
And the
says, I'm not sure about that one. Can you have a look at it?
Yeah,
it should be on their terms.
Yeah.
For me,
I don't with it is that if they do that now, they're never going to do that partway through a season, are they? Because they've set a precedent, and now they can't then go back on it, because you can go, well, hang on a minute, last week that was looked at and now you're not looking at that sort of thing. Unfortunately, they've created a rod for their own back, and they have to stick with this. There has to be an element of managers getting behind the referees and going, we understand it's not an easy job. We need to give them the best opportunity to make the right decision. Don't heap any more pressure on them. Don't turn into the fucking Man United of yesteryear that used to run 60 yards after a referee until he made a decision. That's the last thing we want to see, and it's getting close to that. I think I'm seeing that, and I think Arteta let himself down in a very emotional, heated state after the Newcastle game, which brings us nicely on to kind of like the biggest part of decision in that game, and the biggest talking point was the goal. So in my opinion, and I see what you guys think after, but my opinion is I don't think I know it wasn't clear enough to give a decision if the ball was out or not. You don't have goal line technology outside of the two white sticks, so you can't make a decision on that. I don't think it was clear enough for anybody to make a decision on that, and I have no problem with it being given. The second part was the offside.
Down. The foul
And
bit.
was it an offside? Yeah. So I'm leading up to that bit. Sorry. So the next part that I agree with is that it was impossible to tell if it was offside or not. I think the fact that Ray had come out and that changes how many players are in between the goal and the ball and the player, and how that decision's made when a goalkeeper's in front of the last defender. It was too difficult to work out at what point did it come off of Joe Linton and everything like that. I understand that's been as well trodden ground and everybody's spoken about it. My biggest problem, my biggest gripe was the fact that I believe it was a foul on Gabriel. Now Gabriel is a South American player that is certainly elaborate in everything he seems to do, and he has done himself and us no favors by making a meal of the contact that was made. And the difficulty, the other side of it as well, is that all we ever see now is stills of the freeze frames. We don't ever really see a lot of actually happening. And the freeze frame, if that's what they're basing it on, which we've seen them do in multiple games and multiple reasons, it's a foul. He has two clear hands in the back of him, and he's pushed him, and he's gained an advantage by doing so. And for me, at that point, that is the reason why I don't believe that goal should have stood. I think in real time it is a touch and is a push, but it is as a freeze frame that everything seems to be judged on now, and we can't go, oh, you can't do it like that because we've seen it done by them live in game. I think at that point it's a foul and the goal shouldn't have stood.
Yeah, I think the only thing I will say is that's the one subjective decision. The other two are pretty black and white. Is the ball out? Is it offside? Etc. Which they couldn't clearly make a decision. The other one is subjective. Was it a foul or not? Now, I would say probably 90% of people who look at that go, probably it's a foul. In real time, it's probably a foul. But if the referee falls into that 10%, which as the referee he may or may not do, then there's nothing you can do. Like, it's a case of like it. I can understand in some people's eyes why it wouldn't be a foul, for example. And if that is the case at all, because it's subjective and it will always be the case, then you are going to get instances like that where there isn't given when maybe 90% of people believe it should be. And that's what's happened a lot this season. It's subjective decisions have been a referee has made a decision, and then maybe it's 30% a really loud minority of people who disagree with the decision. Maybe it's 80-90% of people, and everyone, but mostly everyone disagrees, but that's the nature of a subjective decision. So it's just always the negativity around it's always going to be amplified. So it always feels like every subjective decision that's been given this season is a bad one.
What do you think, Josh? You mentioned it as a subjective, so you obviously have an opinion. What is your opinion?
I was really 50-50 on it because I can see why it wasn't given as a foul. I would have given it as a foul if I was the referee and I'd looked back at it. I would, in real time, I would have given it as a foul because Joe Linton's got two arms outstretched. It's not like he's got his arms are bent or anything like that. In his body, he's got two arms outstretched. You do see that a lot still, even that aren't given all the time. But in that instance, as it's a goal scoring opportunity, I would have given it as a foul. I think it's probably a foul. But I can see why it wasn't given. So I'm not outraged, not outraged it wasn't given. Obviously, I'm not an Arsenal fan, but at the same time, even from a neutral's perspective, I'm not like completely. Just that's how it is.
So you can only assume in that instance then that VAR have looked at that and gone, well, the ref's not give a foul for that. It's not an obvious error, so we'll move on to the next.
That's what I believe.
Stick with the on-field decision.
Yeah. And to be fair to them, that's in theory what we should be doing more of.
Yeah. But to start changing their methodology quarter way through the season because the heat is on them. Again, I think is that they're overthinking decisions now. I think
definitely.
What's the consequence of this more than what is the decision? Is it a foul?
They're so scared about getting it wrong that they're now analysing it to the point where they feel like they have to do everything impossible to try and get it right.
Yeah.
And that's fair. Yeah. They obviously want to get the correct decision. And also because of that, it's going to take more time because they're going to scrutinise it more.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the best way forward. I don't think I agree it is, but I don't know what else to suggest, at the moment.
In
So
in short, the two of you, without kind of any connotation or anything else with it, would you A, fuck it off and go back to just let the referees ref, or B, persist with it and hope that they get it right eventually?
For me, I think they need to have it. I just think it needs to be used better.
Okay.
I'm actually on the end of, I'm a bit like, fuck it off, I'm just like, and see what happens for a season, and then
Mm.
wait for the outcry to come back, for it to come
Well,
back
that's the problem.
within
It is.
week one, within week one, and
Well,
then
this
it will
is
come
it.
back.
It's very easy to forget the outcry for we need VAR, we need VAR. There's so many decisions that are wrong and it's crap and blah blah blah. Because technology advanced and we could see slow-mo replays from all different angles. And, people who are watching on the TV, you can see, oh, that's completely wrong. The ref's got that completely wrong. Why haven't we got a video referee? We need a video. They have it in cricket, they have it in rugby, they have it in tennis. Come on, we need it. And yeah, let's have it. Brilliant,
Yeah.
we've got it. Oh, bloody hell, it's shit. Doesn't work.
Well, it does work.
Precedent's been set, isn't it?
But they seem to have gone
the-
downhill. When they started,
No,
they had its teething problems. But how long have we had it now? Is it five seasons?
5
Is it?
seasons,
Yeah.
yeah.
As a
And it
quick
seems to have
example,
got worse.
yeah, as a quick example, I'm watching the Champions League at the moment. Yeah, VAR's in use. The
Right.
one thing they do in Champions League is slightly different to the Premier League, but they also seem to operate it better across Europe in most places.
Mhm.
The World
Surprise,
Cup, we saw
surprise.
it worked really well.
Yeah, it worked well in the Women's World Cup as well.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say. I think again, this goes back to the referees. Maybe I'm actually potentially thinking. I don't mind like Anthony Taylor and people like that, but I just think to myself, I wonder what it'd be like if they had a almost entirely foreign refereeing crew in the Premier League.
Yeah,
Europe's top refs kind of thing.
yeah.
And I wonder what if it would change.
Be interesting.
Or,
And this
or
is
the
where
people
Arteta's
running
point
VAR.
of saying,
Oh my God, Maguire scored. No, he hasn't.
this is Arteta's point of him saying that we say it's the best league, but we're let down by it. And I
Yeah,
feel
that's right.
bad for the referees, and I feel bad for Howard Webb and the hand he's been dealt to try and sort this out properly. And the problem is that it is substandard. And as we reference, as you said there, World Cup. Do you remember the first World Cup? It came out and everyone goes, "Oh my God, what is all this rubbish?" And it was brilliant. It was really good. And then you've got the Women's World Cup, where even they got to the point where they're announcing the decision, so it was clearer. They trialed that way. I think it almost added to the theatre of it a little bit, kind of almost not over the top theatre, like 22 minutes added time, like Chelsea Spurs the other night. But that's there's all positives that have happened, and we're just not seeing it happen.
But we had this conversation before. Did we agree that it's because it's the Premier League? It's not. It's the Premier League, isn't it? It's not FIFA. It's not the FA, because they use it differently in the FA Cup. We had this conversation, didn't we?
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that? It's the Premier League, the way that the Premier League are using VAR, which is different to the other sort of authorities that do it.
Yeah. Oh, Josh, you talked me through this, mate. What's happened here?
Hang on, what's this?
Yeah, I know. I've just been watching it. Sorry, pausing.
I've just seen it flash
but,
up. Talk me through what's happened.
Dear.
Obviously camped in the box with 10 men, aren't they? The ball comes back post, whipped back post, and the guy gets ahead of Dallo and it just bobbles it in. It's funny because I literally turned it back on. I forgot about the second half and turned it back on just as Fernandes was putting the ball down the penalty spot. So I didn't even see that. But anyway, well, I'll cut this from the pod.
That makes it 3-3, Ben. No,
3-3.
That makes it 3-3, Ben. I don't know if
Rashford got sent off.
3-3.
No, I've just checked. Yeah, Rashford
got sent off. Maguire gave away a penalty handball, although I don't know what you can do there. It's just the rules of the game. I didn't see the other one. Anyway, I was going to ask you actually.
Yes, go on,
Jack, quickly on the VAR thing. It's more. I have a bit of an issue with the way that, I know you mentioned it briefly, but the way that Arteta handled it himself after game, and then the way that the club piled on. Now I know Jurgen Klopp's done it as well. I'm not basically a big fan of managers and clubs being so it's kind of a dangerous precedent, because once one of them does it, everyone's going to think, oh, that's okay, we'll come out and we'll have a statement on any decision we think's right, and then just put mad pressure on the refereeing body and the referees. I'm just not sure it's a good thing. So I don't know what your
No.
thoughts were.
Well,
But
look at Super Hans Postacoglu, whatever his name is, coming riding on his white horse, his
I
noble
thought we'd get
steed,
to this at
sticking
some
up for
point.
the referees. Lo and behold, the fucking prick got booked himself for knobbing off refs. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but he did say after the match in quite a casual way, I don't like the way VAR is working, didn't he? He was very clear.
He did,
It wasn't like
yeah.
it wasn't like he just
No,
did it in a different way to Arteta. And you might have
oh,
said he was
definitely,
needling Arsenal and Arteta, but
he
I
was.
think
He
there's
100%
two
was.
different ways of handling the VAR discussion. I think, dare I
Yeah,
say, he
I
handled it a
agree.
little better.
I think I don't agree with, as a kind of again saying it, I don't agree with how Arteta went about it, but what he said and the premise of what he said was all genuine, and his responsibility as the mouthpiece for the club is to stand up for what he believes in and call out for something that he believes is wrong. And I Klopp genuinely got less heat than Arteta when Klopp called for a replay.
Yeah, no, I would say
And
I would
it's an
agree.
agenda against Arteta. Arteta's
No, yeah,
disliked by a lot.
I would say that's partially true. I would also say though that it's now because the furore around VAR has just gathered and gathered and gathered and gathered. You know, there were some outrageous things said about it up until, and then it just got more outrageous when Jurgen Klopp said about the whole replay, and he did get some stick for it. And then obviously
Yeah, he did.
since then there have been even worse decisions in theory, and even more furore around it. And every game seems to have 3 or 4 or 5 huge controversial decisions now. And I think, another couple of weekends of that in a row, and I think that's why this one's, and obviously because it's recency bias, this is going to have quite a bit of, stick. So it might be the case that he has got more flack for it, but I also think he was a little bit more emotionally charged in giving his opinion, and
He was more scathing of them, wasn't he? I think you're right.
And I also think that, again, recency bias, and I also think it's, again, just more furore around it. So
Yeah.
the pressure on
nobody
that
likes
is just
us.
getting higher and higher. I guarantee if say Eric Ten Hag comes out and does that next week and Man United lose on some sort of massive thing, and he does the same thing to
Joshy,
Arteta.
4-3.
Copenhagen. I'm just watching it now. I'm actually behind, slightly, so I haven't seen it, but I'm guessing it is now.
I was going to say, I haven't got that update.
Okay.
No,
yeah, well, they are down to 10
Sorry
men,
to jump in, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so you understand what I'm trying to say. I think if that happened and Ten Hag did exactly the same as Arteta, it'd be even worse. Coming week, because
he's
it's just
public enemy number one, isn't he, Arteta?
Yeah, I don't disagree on some level. I'm sure that is the case, but I don't think
Ten
he does
Hag,
himself.
actually, I think
I don't think he does himself any favors.
No, I can certainly agree on that.
So, yeah.
What about the crazy, the other game? So Monday Night Football didn't disappoint. I think it was built up a lot to be a good game. I'm sure you two remember as well as I do the wonderful battle at the bridge where Spurs came third in a 2-horse race, and it was an absolute Eden Hazard masterclass and a complete capitulation from the Spursiest of Spurs teams. I think that's initially where the Spursy tag came from, and it kind of, it felt like it was just all happening again Monday night. It was just the maddest game. There's no point going over each individual incident as it happened, but by half time, it was both of my brothers. I dropped a message into my little group chat with my brothers, and I was like, "Please tell me you're watching this game," and neither of them were. And I then kind of, as Monday Night Football, Carragher and whoever else on it were going through like each case or each incident in the first half in a very small window that they had to kind of talk about things. I listed it to them, and I looked at it before I sent it. I'm going, that could be a season.
Yeah, man.
You could go over a season, like mad things that happened, but that was 55 minutes, whatever it ended up working out being, for half of football. It was just incredible. So key points that jumped out for me is I thought Ndoggy should have been sent off for that tackle. Amazingly, Jordan's turned around, my younger brother's turned around to me going, Havertz's tackle was worse than Ndoggy's tackle. I don't know what planet he's on. He's so anti-Arsenal, it's a joke. But that tackle was dreadful, and he got away with it. You had Romero doing Romero things where he was just kicking out at people when he had an opportunity, and then obviously went over the ball in the box to give away a penalty, but also to get red carded as well. After, in the same phase of play, Casado scored, but it was jumped over by a Chelsea player, I think Nicholas Jackson, and he was deemed to be offside by literally like a
which is mental.
A fibre of his shirt, which I thought was just insane as well. And he was 15 yards out, probably more.
It's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
But I think that actually benefited Chelsea, because if they'd just not sent off Romero and not given a penalty, and he'd obviously stayed on and they were given the goal, I think they're better off a goal and a player down, especially a player in the form that Romero is in. What else, Ben? Go on, you can speak for a little bit. What else can you remember from it?
The first half was completely bonkers, wasn't it? And then Udogie got sent off. It was he wasn't the first one to get sent off, was he? No, Romero got sent off. They scored the pen, and then once Udogie got that second yellow and got sent off, then it was kind of I thought fair play to the way Tottenham played, actually, because they were still attacking and they were they were so high up the pitch. They were trying to play that offside, and Chelsea were inevitably going to get on the break. For them to get 3, I think, was a bit bonkers, really, and they were 3 pretty much identical goals. But
it took Chelsea a while to break that down.
It did. It took them a while, but it was always going to happen. Crikey, 9 players, and they were all really going for it as well. And I thought, actually, fair play. Was it stupid? Was it a bit naive? Maybe so, but maybe the Premier League needs a bit of that. Do you know what I mean? Rather than teams go, all right, we're down to 10 men, let's just sit behind the ball. We're 1-0. Well, so it's 1-1. Let's play for the draw. Maybe get them on the break, because he could have done that, and teams of old would have done that. But he's like, no, come on, we can do this. We've got the players to do this. We've got the pace. We've got the energy. So I think it was because he did that, actually, that the game did turn out the way it did, because they were going for it, and they could easily have not. Do you know what I mean? He could have made it. I mean, he brought Højbjerg on and played him at the back.
That still that's out, isn't there? That image of them having 7 men in a line just inside there, halfway, and the ball's only about 10 yards in front of him. I thought this kind of I love that, to be honest. But,
so fair
a few points to note as well. You got Jackson getting his first hat trick, and I think he probably should have had a few more. Is it Vicario, the goalkeeper? I can't pronounce his name properly.
Yeah, what a display he had.
Incredible, and the fact that he still conceded 4 goals, it was brutal. I sit on the side of it, and again, my tribalism and my biasm is coming out. I think they were naive to do it that way, and I think they could have found themselves against one of their biggest rivals getting a real kick, and I don't think 4-1 flattered Chelsea in the end. I think they probably could have got more. Granted, I know Son and Bentancur probably could have scored pretty late on at 2-1 to make it a real contest. But I think how they did it, I think there's different ways to go about it. I admire his balls, and I admire him going, even if we were down to 5 players, granted the game would have been postponed if he was, or called if he was, but I get this premise is that we would carry on playing the same way as well. One thing I said to Josh last night at football, Ben, is I love that he kind of pacifies any aggression by just dropping the little Aussie mate at the end of every conversation. So it's like, I think Sam Matterface asked him last week, do you think can Spurs win the league? And he's like, unless there's anywhere in the rule books that says that Spurs can't win the league, then I don't see why not, mate. And I'm thinking you've snapped back at him with a fucking Saki comment and kind of gone, and then you just pacify it completely with mate. So yeah, I do like him. I'm disliking him more daily, but I'm sure that will change again soon.
I think he's great to have in the Prem.
is a fresher breath air, a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think I think he is good for the Premier League, and I'm sure I'll come back round to him. But for the time being, he has pissed me off slightly. I'm trying to think what else. The big other subjects in there is the injuries as well. Van der Ven, that was, you heard the groans from the. I kind of looked away at the point. I don't know what I was doing. I looked away, and you heard like the groans as if they just missed like a goal, like an open goal. But it was them all realising that Van der Ven had just
that's a
properly
massive
done
loss.
himself, and a big
Yeah,
old.
that's a massive loss. That. Well, their whole
and
back
Romero's
line's
out for 3 games, isn't he?
their whole back line's going to be decimated for the next few games.
Yeah.
Because
It's just a
Udogie will
shame they've
meet.
got
Was that?
Wolves.
Well, Wolves are playing
Udogie's-
well. Wolves are
Udogie's
playing
got,
well. Go on, Udogie.
One
Was that-
game. You've got Romero with 3 games, and you've got
Yeah.
Van der Ven, who's injured. He'll be out for probably a couple of months, maybe.
So he's going to go. So Dyer will come in. Emerson Royale will come in. Porro will be there. Who else are they going to play at the back? Who else have they got back there?
No idea.
Is
Well,
See if they
Eric
even
Dyer
know.
isn't. Eric
Dyer.
Dyer isn't exactly fast, so playing a high line.
So it's a difficult one.
Anyway,
But yeah, this is what a season does, though, isn't it? That's what happens. So it's all exciting.
throws up an interesting game and a mad result. Not sorry, mad result. Sorry, an interesting result and a mad game. That's probably the
I
best
don't know what
way
happened to
to.
Maddison. What happened to Maddison? Because he just kind of fell over. He didn't get kicked or anything.
Yeah.
He just fell over. I wonder if he got.
He is a little soft,
twinge.
isn't he?
He does
I think
do
Kev
things like
can-
that, doesn't he?
Yeah, Kev in the group certainly referenced shock Madison's injured. Where have we seen this before? And he did miss a lot of games last season through relatively innocuous injuries. So it'd be interesting to see. I'm sure Josh will update us on what the FPL world think of the injury and whether he's got a chance of playing again. But I think I don't think he'll be out too long. I don't think Ange was too fussed about it when he was asked about it. But they don't play again for ages now. Obviously, no midweek football. And I remember them. Oh no, sorry. Yes, they do. They play Wolves Saturday 12:30, which was brutal, seeing as
international
they
break,
played
mate.
Monday.
After that.
But from then, the international break, they don't play for such a long time.
Is it?
Where others had a few games, they had like one game in 2.5 weeks or something. So they have got
Maybe
a
he's
chance
trying to get a
try
sneaky game off and get himself fit and ready for the England matches.
and sit on the bench.
Yeah.
and that's not a jibe at him. That's more of Southgate. I think he should be playing if he's fit. But yeah, good old Safegate will probably not pick him.
That'll screw up my FPL team if he doesn't play. I've got so many injuries, it's unbelievable.
Well, I was going to say, lads, for the time, do you mind moving us on to that just for the last few minutes?
Yeah, go on, mate.
defo.
Well, fuck it. This is extra time, mate. Let loose.
Well, it's not. I wasn't going to keep it on forever because.
I need to go to
VAR
bed.
extra time. We're at 25 minutes.
Yeah. So what I was going to say, I mean, if we can chat football, more football, if you want to, there's other things to just to go over that you want to continue going over. I don't want to, take away
go
from
through
that.
FPL, mate. I'm sure there'll be some bits that will come up in that.
Well, so what I was going to say quickly is it's kind of a terrible week for most people when it came to fantasy football. I will just say, if you think you've got anything close to 30 points, you had a good week. You'd be surprised, but you had a good week, at least against the rest of the field. So you might not.
Didn't Doku
personally
do that
felt
on
like
his
he had a
own?
good week.
Yeah,
Yeah, he got 22.
22.
And
Yeah, fair play.
there's quite a few other teams who only got 22 total. So I think I was one of them.
I got 21.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Craig benefited from having Doku just randomly, and he thought somehow he was out of his team, but he was actually in. Lucky bugger.
I know, but he benched him. I love that.
Yeah. I would just say it's too late to say be careful with knee-jerk transfers, but that's always something to bear in mind. Speaking of Doku, a lot of transfers in this week. The question would be why,
Yeah, totally.
but it's just because he scored a lot of points in it. It's just the nature of FPL and any with casual. So I would not get him in. Let's just make it that clear. If you're thinking about it,
I love how direct he is.
yeah,
He's a
no,
bit
it
of
is. Yeah, he's really good. It's
great
just
to
that
see.
for FPL, it's not really all that great. Bad fixtures, limited minutes,
Pep
lots of
roulette.
options in midfield. It's just like
Yeah.
so not really the best thing. Speaking of the injuries, by the way, Matty Cash Erling Haaland and James Maddison, as we were discussing, they seem to have avoided any serious injury. So the expectation is to see them playing again this weekend. So there's no. I mean, Haaland played last night, for example.
Yeah, he scored 2 last
Matty
night.
Cash was told, I think the press conference is he will play in the Europa League this week. So there's no problems with him. Maddison seems to have avoided anything serious, so he seems to be fine.
Good news.
Exactly, yeah. So that's another thing about transfers is people transfer out what they perceive to be injuries and then realise, oh wait, actually they're not injured.
Yeah.
Speaking of Estepinian, he should
He's
be back
back.
this week. He's in
Yeah, he's
training. He
back.
should be playing on Thursday, so he's one to look at. But if he's not back this week, he'll definitely will be after the international break. He does usually miss the first game after the international break because of his travel, though.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing to think about. Newcastle, they're getting loads of injuries, thin on the ground.
Yeah.
Wilson got injured last night as well, I think.
Yeah, just a knock, I think, from what I can tell. I don't think that's anything really serious. I haven't really looked into that one, to be honest.
No, just always seems to miss playing Bournemouth at Bournemouth. Since moving to Newcastle, he's either been injured or unavailable through suspension every time they've come to Bournemouth. And the Bournemouth fans are desperate to give him a good reception, as they have done with Eddie and everybody else that has come back. But I reckon there's a chance he might not be playing again, which will leave them pretty short.
We'll see on that one. The best options from a FPL point of view for them, Kieran Trippier is the standard, but he's quite expensive. Jamal Lascelles, who's like really cheap.
Well, I had Lascelles on the bench last week.
Well,
would you believe?
But that's fine though, because he's only 4 million as a defender, so you expect to bench him sometimes.
But he got 9 points. I benched both my Newcastle players because I thought Arsenal would win. And Byrne got injured and came off and got a point. And then Lascelles got 9 points, and they were both on my bench. Dagnamit.
So there you go. Wilson, Livramento is actually potentially an option.
Well, he'll play now,
a little player, isn't he?
Yeah, I suspect there will be some rotation there, so that's just one thing to bear in mind. Wilson should be a lock, by the way. He will have his minutes managed, assuming he's fit, but because Isak's not there, he should be playing 70, 80 minutes most games. And then Gordon as well is a good option.
Yeah.
Especially if Wilson's not fit.
Yeah.
They'll play him down the middle.
Yeah, fixtures aren't brilliant, but they're a good team, so I'm not worried about them. Spurs options we mentioned limited. Maddison and Son now really the only people I would even think about. I wouldn't go near defenders except for potentially Porro, as we've already discussed. By the way, I'm not sure if you know when Jesus is back. Gabriel Jesus is meant to be back, by the way.
Is he?
Easter time, I think. That's normally when he comes back.
So Nketiah as a cheap forward option is probably pretty good for the time being. He's in the Brazil squad though, Gabriel Jesus. That's one thing that's quite interesting.
Is he? That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
So potentially sooner you think. Arsenal defense is a really good target for now. So Saliba is probably my number one option there.
Yeah.
Saliba.
Yeah, I mean just for safety, in minutes.
They've got some good fixtures coming up, Arsenal as well. They've got a run of some fairly low-ranking games, haven't they?
Yeah. I honestly can't remember the fixtures at the moment, but I know that he's there because of fixtures. Yeah, there you go.
Burnley, Brentford, Wolves, Luton.
It'll change after international though, can it? Internationals can fuck you with injuries.
Yeah.
Of
but
course,
they've got a good run. They've got half a dozen good, decent, winnable games. So
I think that's why if you can, and you don't have any transfers to make this week, it's best to roll it, because when you get to international breaks, it's a good time to have 2 free transfers, so you're not having to make, just in case. That's always a good thing. Anyway, so just a quick watch list. Defenders: Estepinian, as I mentioned, Saliba, Kufal from West Ham is probably a good one. Mark Gahey or Tyke Mitchell from Crystal Palace. Trippier, Lascelles, and then I can't believe I'm saying this, Harry Maguire. Just because he's cheap, and again, Man United have got some good fixtures. So
yeah.
What's going on with Varane?
No idea, mate. Honestly, I'm assuming because he gets injured every single time he comes and plays that he's being limited slightly by that. But I'm also thinking that he's out because Harry Maguire's been playing quite well.
Fair.
And I think
Do you think he's had a fallout?
that is a theory going around. I'm not sure I believe it because it's rumor, so I kind of step away from that. It does seem a little odd. Not been playing.
I got something on it actually. Just looking now, Johnny Evans came off after 15 minutes tonight, so Varane
yeah.
is probably going to play. And Johnny Evans is ripe old age of 38 or whatever he is now. Probably has had a knock and is going to take a little while to recover from that.
Yeah.
That's
So I mean,
interesting.
he will be there. It's just more that I was just thinking Maguire's probably cheaper than I have to admit. I don't check in terms of FPL. I'm not by the way, I'm not advocating for Man United defenders per se. I just thought I'd chuck it in there as a quick
one to consider.
Yes, indeed. Not top of the list. Let's just say that. Midfielders, we got Bowen and Kudos from West Ham. They seem pretty nailed. Gordon, as we mentioned. Hwang Hee-chan from Wolves. They've got some good fixtures. I know they're playing Arsenal, but after that,
Spurs.
pretty good.
Oh, they've got Spurs at the weekend.
Spurs. Sorry. And then after that, it's pretty good, I think. Palmer. I know they've got terrible fixtures, Chelsea, but he is on penalties and he's really cheap as a midfielder. And Buemo is like my number one. I'm going to get him in 2 weeks regardless. Like, it doesn't matter what it costs me. Mitoma, obviously the only now Brighton midfielder I can think of. Saka is probably the only Arsenal midfielder I would take at the moment, or if I had to choose one of three, like Martinez, Saka, Odegaard, he'd be the one I choose.
He scored tonight as well, to be fair. Good goal. Goal and assist tonight, so a little bit of form again.
Crystal Palace at Eze, although they don't score enough goals really, but Eze's not a bad option. And then, I can't believe it, Bruno Fernandes, if you feel like being tortured, he's a good option. And then forwards, you've got Nketiah, as I mentioned, Anson Edouard from Crystal Palace, Wilson, Darwin Núñez. Darwin Núñez is a minute's risk.
He's doing quite well.
Yeah, he should be playing most of the time.
Points. So. Yeah.
He should score more than he does as well, really. I think he's
he'll get there.
Guilty of missing a few chances, isn't he?
If he can get back, by the way, I did forget to mention Luis Diaz. If he's back in and playing, as an option.
Yeah, nice.
That's it for my fantasy. I've got nothing
else.
Man.
Yeah.
Nice. An extended one.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll probably wrap it up there. My my darling wife has cooked me dinner, left it on the side. It's gone cold, and she's fucked off to bed. So that's how long we've been chatting away. So I'm going to go enjoy some cold sausage and mash.
Lovely. That's
no,
mate.
No innuendos
vegetarian
meant
sausage. At all. Vegetarian
sausage.
No, I am you have 3 of them.
I've got the chicken ones. You know the we get the chicken sausages that are quite nice actually. But yeah, I think
See, I can't. We used to have corn sausages, which are all right, but I can't eat corn because I've got an intolerance to mushrooms, and corn is made from like mushroom protein, so that's a bit of a pig.
Oh, there you go. Just thought you were going to say you were an intolerance to shit food, but
we've all got
that as well.
I mean,
yeah, all right.
Yeah, man.
Right, lovely stuff, gents. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks, James, for joining us. It's really insightful, and you certainly gave us loads to talk about. I know the feedback I've got from the Bournemouth community and outside of it, actually. My brother loves the interview ones that kind of pick up some inspiration and kind of cheat codes around what people are doing that's been successful. And I think to hear it and see it happen is always as a positive. I'll chuck some of his photos up on the socials so people can put a face to the voice and see what people think. But yeah, that's us over and out, gents. I will see you tomorrow night, Josh, and Benjamin, I will see you Friday night.
You will indeed. Look forward to it.
Cheerio, chaps.
Cheers, boys. Take care.
Thanks for your time. Bye.